We're halfway through pre-season. Arsenal have 3 wins from 3 games, but what have we actually learned about the team in this period, and what will it tell us about the upcoming Premier League season? This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. Wherever you are in the world, I really hope you're well. I want to say thank you to our returning listeners for their continued support in the month of July. We are not in the season yet, it is close, it is next month. We are a few days away from August, which means we are only a couple of weeks away from the Premier League season. And we've been talking transfers, we've been talking friendlies, but I know we all want the football to start, so really appreciate everyone's support who's kept listening throughout this summer period and listened to me hypothesize about transfers and stuff like that. We will have match reviews returning really soon, which we're all very excited about, of course. If you want to go one step further and support a little bit more, follow the podcast, that really helps, or leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts from. That also really helps. Like you heard at the top of this episode, we're going to be talking about what have we learnt so far in pre-season. Will it tell us anything about the Premier League season and Champions League campaign coming up? Or are we all just reaching a little bit at the moment and maybe reading into stuff too much? I'm going to take 3 to 4, I think, main topics and kind of start discussing whether I'm really concerned about them or whether I'm really excited about them and whether I think they will pan into the Premier League season. So, the first one, our fitness concerns are not done yet. That is 100% clear. Look, one thing we have done super well this summer is we have gone out and we have got some really top quality depth as well as improved some of our first team options. So, we're looking at Gyokeres and Zubimendi as probably first team options, and as Mikel Arteta maybe used to say, doesn't say anymore, are tier 1 signings. Noni Madueke, we're not sure where he really fits. Is he going to be a starter off the left wing? I don't think many people think that is the case at all, really, but there's a chance he gets a good number of minutes off there. Is he going to be a rotation between Saka, Martinelli, Trossard and Madueke? We're really not sure about his role, and because he hasn't been on the tour yet due to his holiday, we don't know too much about him. Norgard coming in, Mosquera coming in and Kepa coming in, however, have really increased our depth. So, look, we should be able to cope with injury concerns a little bit better next season than we did last season. But the concerns are not over. Let's start with Riccardo Calafiori. He has played, or started, I should say, 2 of the there's been 3 friendlies. One of them was behind closed doors, so we're not 100% certain. But we know that he has started at the games against Milan and Newcastle at left centre-back. A really interesting development because, one, another player we'll come on to talk about, Gabriel, has not been fit enough to start those games. But 2, Calafiori being picked at left centre-back over Jakub Kiwior seems to suggest that is something Arteta wants to explore in this coming season. Does he have an idea that Riccardo Calafiori might be a slightly better backup to Gabriel? Or does he have an idea that we're getting offers or interest in Jakub Kiwior and he wants to make sure we can sell him because we'll have the cover within Riccardo Calafiori? But he's gone down with another injury, a pretty inconspicuous injury. After the game, Mikel Arteta described it as Riccardo feeling a tweak. We've heard that before, though, with players like Riccardo Calafiori, and a tweak is quickly a 6-week, 8-week issue. He is a player that throughout his Arsenal career has shown really special talent, and I personally am a massive fan of his. I think he scored a couple of really interesting and important goals last year. Obviously, the one against Manchester City is the one that sticks out. We all forget, though, that winner against Wolves in the Miles Lewis-Skelly red card game. And, of course, my favourite one was the one in the 7-1 drubbing of PSV, where he ended up playing as a centre-forward, driving through from left-back. An incredible finish as well. He has tons of talent. And this guy, I really do think, has the ability to not just be a top-class offensive, going forward player for Arsenal. I do think with a little bit more physical kind of development and working on some of his agility and his early stage sprinting, he'll be a really, really good defender because he's got the nous for defending. But sometimes I just think his ability to turn, spin, and react to the pace of the Premier League and the Champions League doesn't help him. However, all of that being said, if you're not fit and you're never fit, it means nothing. And Riccardo Calafiori has picked up another injury. I think this is sort of fourth now major injury in just over a year at Arsenal. So it's really disappointing. We will have to see what it is. Are Arsenal just being super cautious with him? Or is this, another thing we're going to have to overcome? The reason Calafiori was on the pitch, of course, is because Gabriel's not fit. Now, he had surgery at the end of last year. He had to fix his hamstring after tearing it in one of the final games. And we know from Mikel Arteta's previous press conferences that he did play 45 minutes against Watford. So he's not been able to get himself fit. Maybe we've rushed him. I don't know. I really don't know. But he has gone under the knife, has not recovered in the same way perhaps Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz managed to and come back kind of stronger. He is seemingly not able to get himself to a point where he can start games or even be featured on the bench. So, look, that's another worry for me because that's two players clearly favoured at the left centre-back position that Mikel Arteta might not be able to call upon in the early stages of our season. We know how tough our start is. Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Newcastle, all in the first 6 games. To not be able to call on Gabriel and then not be able to call on Riccardo Calafiori is a real issue for that whole left-sided pod. Look, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Jakub Kiwior are very, very good. There's an argument to say Miles Lewis-Skelly is the de facto left-back and Kiwior should start because of what he did last season and previous seasons, deputising for Gabriel and Saliba. He should start in that left centre-back spot anyway over Riccardo Calafiori. I accept that argument. But it isn't great to potentially be starting the year without those two players because Calafiori, whatever you say about him, he is a threat from left-back. He is a chaos agent from that position, and Gabriel is our best defender. Like William Saliba is a wonderful player, but he has different qualities that I think make him a better overall player than Gabriel. Gabriel is our best out-and-out raw defender, in my opinion. So look, that's not good, and Timber is another player here which we've got to talk about. He had surgery at the back end of last year. Well, actually, it went into the summer, didn't it? It was an ankle surgery. We've not seen him at all, really. We know he's out there. We know he's on the pitch a little bit, but we don't know the extent to what he's been able to do. And look, there's big, big worries at the back for me in terms of injury problems. This is not over, and Arsenal will continue, I think, to pay the costs of last season and the kind of cluster injuries we had and then the cumulative load that put on our players. We're going to continue to pay the cost of that this season, especially early this season. It's a really worrying thing that we are going to have a bit of luck to get around, because I think we'll start the season and Jakub Kiwior will play a lot of football. We'll start the season and Ben White will play a lot of football. Those guys will have to stay fit until Timber, Gabriel can get back into fighting fit shape and be ready to go and play 90 minutes regularly again. Then we can get into the position where we're using that full spread of the depth chart to get players in and out of the squad as when required. Another final point on the fitness injury kind of thing. Ødegaard not starting in either of the 2 games in Singapore so far. I don't know. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because Ethan has started in the 10 position. I was thinking about it. Is it Ødegaard still maybe not being 100% not fit, but sharp from last year? We saw him be very, very underweight for a long period. Could it be that? I tend to think it's just Mikel Arteta saying, Ethan, you're going to play in the middle a bit more this year. Here's your time to learn it. Martin knows the position like the back of his hand. Ødegaard has been firing a couple of shots off, especially in that Newcastle game from the edge of the area. Scored the penalty as well, of course. He looks okay, but I do find it interesting that he's not started. Let's move on to the second topic before I take a short break. And I think the second thing we've learned is that our young attackers are, quite frankly, absurdly talented. Absurdly talented. We already knew it a little bit about Ethan Nwaneri. So he had a fantastic season last season. 9 goals in all competitions. Played more games than I think anyone expected him to. Lit up Arsenal's season with a number of really good moments. Obviously, the goal against Manchester City sticks out in my mind. The kind of game-changing substitute appearance against Leicester sticks out in my mind as well. He scored it in the Champions League against Girona. That's another goal that I think is really, really good. But we saw him in the game against Milan, and like I said, he started in that 10 position where we expect him to play more minutes this year. We saw him in that game against Milan just display everything that we want from a player of that age. The fearlessness, the creativity and the talent. And look, we spent all of last summer talking about Ethan Nwaneri. We've spent a lot of this summer talking about Max Dowman, who I will come on to. Let's not forget Ethan Nwaneri in the in the focus on new signings, in the focus on Max Dowman and whether Max will get minutes and all of that sort of stuff. Let's not forget what an incredible talent we've got on our hands in Ethan Nwaneri, and I think the development that he will do this season, because the couple of moments in the Milan game, he only got 45 minutes, a couple of moments were really special, really showed what he can do from absolutely nothing. He can create from a position where you're just thinking, okay, this is just going to spin into whatever, a general period of play. Ethan Nwaneri has magic in his feet to turn like he did on the byline against Milan, like he did around the penalty area against Milan, to create that wonderful volley or to create a cross like he did from the wide areas. He is a player that we can't forget about. And I think we are forgetting about him in the hype about Max Dowman. We can't forget just how good Ethan Nwaneri might be this season. And look, it is going to be a tall order for Ethan Nwaneri to kind of burst his way into this team, because Martin Ødegaard, for all his issues last season, his injury, his lack of sharpness, his lack of finishing, he is an incredibly important player for this team, and he is the club captain. So for Ethan Nwaneri, this is not a scenario where the odds are in his favour, where an injury might happen and he'll be able to dislodge the first team player in his position. That is often how the opportunities come about. Bukayo Saka came in at left back. Mars Lewis-Skelly came in at left back, making that position his own. You've got to find an opportunity in the squad. Ethan came in at right wing. Clearly this year, you're going to play that 8/10 a lot more. It's going to be difficult for him to break in, even if Ødegaard gets injured or has some time away from the first 11. To wrestle that position off him permanently is going to be very challenging. So I guess what I'm saying is, let's not forget about him. Let's keep getting him in the squad whenever we can. Get him on the pitch with substitute appearances. And for me, this kid could go and score 15 goals this season. I would not be surprised about that at all. And he may not even be the most exciting thing to kind of happen in terms of our youth prospects within the upcoming season, which is wild to me. He's super talented, and I'm really excited to see what he does as a kind of de facto member of the first team squad this year, as opposed to a guy who, we've spoken about. He made his debut at 16, 15, whenever it was, and there was a bit of media hype about him and all of that sort of stuff. And will he, won't he? This year, it's a will he. It's just how much. It's not a will he. He will, but how much? That's what we're talking about now. The player who is will he, won't he is Max Dowman. And Max Dowman, for a 15-year-old kid, has shown so much in these two friendly appearances. Obviously, he's come off the bench both times and gone out to play out wide, just as Ethan did, and he's pulled defences apart. In my opinion, it looks like he just has this goal of, I'm going to score a goal in pre-season. Almost that kind of Victor Gyokeres-esque, I'm desperate to score a goal and I'll do anything to do it. He has that drive, that ability to skip past players, go past them and release a shot at pace. When he's moving, he doesn't have to slow the play down. He doesn't have to set himself that much. Very little backlift, and then can hit the ball with a great kind of travelling technique. This kid is unbelievable. To do that, what he did to Joe Linton the other day in the Newcastle game at 15 years old is just quite sublime. And the most exciting thing for me, I think everyone knew that this kid was good with the ball at his feet, but there's been one or two moments where he's ridden a challenge or he's been back defending and kind of got involved, and there's just a little bit of me that's looking at how he's playing in those moments and thinking, you don't look like a 15-year-old kid. Like you're riding challenges in such a impressive way. I think he's far more physically capable than I thought he was. We looked at Ethan last year and thought, you're a bit lightweight at times, and look, it's pre-season, so this might be a very early kind of conclusion. It might be the wrong conclusion to take, but I've just had little moments where I've seen him, physically stand up to the challenge, and it might not be the same when the full season comes around. I accept that, but it's given me a bit of hope that actually if he was to get minutes, let's say in the League Cup this year, and he got 1-2 appearances, which, to be fair, for me, if Max Dowman got that, I'd be super happy. Go with the squad a couple of times and maybe get off the bench twice. Maybe start a League Cup game. That would be magical in my head, because he's got Ethan in the way. Ethan needs to get minutes. He's got Saka, Madueke on the right wing. He will be the odd one out of that group, and if he can just get a couple of appearances, that would be great. It gives me confidence that he can stand up to the physical challenge in those moments, the way he's riding tackles and the way he's dealing with defenders. So really, really excited about that. And both of these players are absurdly talented. We see Miles Lewis-Skelly come through last year. I think Ethan will come through. Maybe not to hold down a first team position, but really show what he's worth and what he's about this year. And he probably isn't the academy story of 25-26 because of Max Dowman and whether he'll get an appearance, which is just crazy when you think about it. Okay, I'm going to have a short break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the final two things that I think we've learned from pre-season so far, including some stuff about Kai Havertz. Sorry for interrupting everyone, but I am on a mission and I need your help. I'm trying to get Arsenal Unfiltered into the ears of as many people as possible, and the best way that you can help me do that is by going and leaving a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts at. That really, really helps me grow the podcast and allows more people to hear the Arsenal Unfiltered coverage 3 times a week. So if you would be so kind to go and leave a review wherever you get your podcast from, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome back to this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. This episode is talking all about what we've learnt so far in pre-season. In the first half, you listened to me talk about how I don't think our fitness concerns are over just yet and how we might continue to pay the last year's injury crisis into the start of this season, and talk about how we have young players in our squad that are so absurdly talented. One of the most exciting prospects to come through our academy in recent years, Ethan Nwaneri, might not even be the Hale End story of 25-26. Now in the second half, I'm going to talk briefly about kind of some new styles that I think we're seeing and finish on Kai Havertz. Fans of this podcast will know that I am a super fan of Kai Havertz, and I think the Victor Gyokeres transfer is really interesting, and how Kai Havertz has responded to that is also really interesting. So don't go anywhere. But look, new styles. I think we've been ever so slightly more direct in these first few games in pre-season. Whether that is there's more space because it's pre-season and the tempo is down and the pace is down and the pressing numbers from the opposition teams are down, I'm not 100% certain. And look, by the way, we're playing in Singapore. The Newcastle game, I don't think I've seen a group of Arsenal players stop, and Newcastle players as well, to be fair, stop so quickly on the 90th minute, on the final whistle, I should say, and just go to their knees. Some of them went down. It is hot out there. Those guys are suffering. Newcastle players as well. It is very, very hot, and probably not since that Wolves game. Do you remember the Wolves game where Kai Havertz basically had to be dragged off the pitch and all the players were like absolutely exhausted last season? I don't think I've seen anything like the end of the Newcastle game since that. So look, they're they're struggling a lot in the heat, right? So it could be that. It could be the physical capabilities that people are able to put out, and we're just going more direct because there's a little bit more space. But I tend to think when you see the signings that we've made, Martin Zubimendi comes from Real Sociedad, a team that relied on him to release the ball quickly and release the ball in a direct forward manner to get the ball up the pitch as quickly as possible. Look at Noni Madueke, a player who is just determined to pick the ball up, travel. Christian Norgard as well, a similar style to Zubimendi at Brentford, kind of direct balls into Mbeumo, Visser, the front players. And of course, Victor Gyokeres, the big signing of this summer, the man that everyone's talking about. He is absurdly direct. So I do think that this is probably something that Arsenal, Arteta and his coaching staff have sat down and spoken about and said, look, we can't afford to be taking this much time to build up and get through the thirds anymore. We've got to be faster. We've got to move up the pitch quicker. So I think we are seeing a little bit more of that. One thing I think we're also seeing, which I'm so excited about, is more shots from the edge of the area. Now, look, the kind of Arsenal way of building up goal scoring chances generated us tons of XG last year. But I do have this theory that there's kind of good XG and meaningless XG, right? And I'm sure someone who in a stats position will maybe tell me that I'm wrong. But if you generate 1 goal's worth of XG and all of them are from kind of tame shots inside the area, where, you know, maybe it's allowed all of the kind of defenders to get back and the goalkeeper to get set and all of that sort of stuff, you generate 1 XG from tons and tons of shots and tons of dominance. But actually none of those shots really have too much of a chance to go in because they don't not hit with conviction, all of that sort of stuff. Does that mean as much as XG generated from a moment where Martin Odegaard's on the edge of the area? Actually, we've caught them off guard a little bit. The goalkeeper's not set. He hits it. And actually, from that moment, because of the way he's hit it and the goalkeeper not being set, he's generated, 0.2 of that XG. And you generate the same amount of XG, right, in less shots, but because the shots are generated far less through dominance and more through directness and kind of pushing forward early and taking shots early and taking long shots where goalkeepers aren't set, because you generate XG that way, is that kind of a weird way of saying that has a better chance of scoring even though the total XG is the same? I'm not 100% certain and I'm down a rabbit hole here, but essentially what I'm saying is I do think we're taking more shots. I do think we're seeing Martin Odegaard release one from the edge of the area. Ethan Nwaneri release them from the edge of the area. Really exciting for me. Even Ben White has strode onto a few, and we know he scored in the Watford game, of course. He's strode onto a few and had a crack when he's marauded into the box behind Bukayo Saka. So, look, it's exciting. I think we're going to see a little bit more focus on that from Arsenal this year. And we might be, as fans, we might need to get ready to be like, well, we're not dominating these games in the way that we used to, but actually the chances we create, the moments we create, are leading to better results. And I think that there's a very good chance of that this season. Okay, final thing, Kai Havertz. Let's talk about him. Like I said before, if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, you'll know that for a while this was a Kai Havertz super fan podcast. Obviously, before he got injured last year, he won't quit. That's the thing I think we've learnt from pre-season. Just because Victor Gyokeres has turned up, Kai Havertz is not going to quit on him being the number 9 at Arsenal. Number 1, I think, he clearly knew that Arsenal were going out to get a striker this summer. So he took his time in the gym when he couldn't play football, when he couldn't sprint or run or kick a ball. He said, well, I'm going to add something to my game. And I think that is a response, to the fact that Arsenal were big on a striker, big on Sesko, big on Gyokeres, finally landed Gyokeres. He was preparing for that, and he was changing his physical capabilities in response to that, to offer another bit to his game so that Mikel Arteta can't overlook him. We know he scored in the behind closed doors game. We know he got 2 assists versus Newcastle the other day. And to be fair as well, I think he's had some really, really impressive moments from a pressing point of view. He's one of the players that I think has looked kind of physically the best condition of the Arsenal team, and he's really, really pushed himself, I would say, to be ready for what's to come, really, and ready for the season coming up. It seems to me that he has, been in his bonnet about other people being, other maybe media outlets and stuff like that, always talking about Arsenal need a number 9. Arsenal will go and get a striker and win the league because Kai Havertz isn't good enough. It feels like he's got a real bee in his bonnet about that, and he's out to prove that wrong. 3 goals or assists in 3 games is an impressive contribution, regardless of whether they're friendlies or not. So I think he has shown, I'll go back to my previous point, I think he's shown great pressing ability and shown that he really, really has an appetite to make defenders' lives misery. I think that's a really, really important thing for Mikel Arteta, and Kai Havertz is proving that. Before Victor Gyokeres even gets in the building, he's saying, oi, look at me, I'm still here, and I'm still fighting for this shirt. He's not going to quit on the number 9 position. He is not going to give that up. And for me, tactically, he's a really important player. Victor Gyokeres is going to have to learn all those other bits that the number 9 does for him to be effective as Arsenal's number 9. So Kai Havertz is going to have a really, really big role to play. 1, in bringing Victor Gyokeres through and helping him to do that. But 2, for picking up a lot of that slack and doing a lot of minutes up front. Do not be surprised if you see a massive number of appearances at number 9, whether off the bench or starting for Kai Havertz next season, because he's not going anywhere without a fight. I promise you that. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Really, really interesting to be halfway through pre-season and kind of think about what we've learned. But I don't know about you guys, but I am so ready for that Manchester United game, 17th of August. We are not far away now. I think it's less than 3 weeks, actually, which is really exciting. Really excited to bring back kind of regular match review podcasts for you guys. Like I said, at the start and in the middle, if you want to leave a review, that's really, really appreciated. 5-star review, wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow the podcast on your podcast provider app of choice. Follow me on Blue Sky, Arsenal-Unfiltered at bsky.social. And of course, if you like YouTube, we're on there as well. Like and subscribe on YouTube. All that's left to say, guys, is thank you for following. Thank you for listening. And I will speak to you very, very soon.